back, and we are joined by a very special guest, former Hawkeyes head coach, winningest coach in Big Ten history, three-time Big Ten Coach of the Year, took the program to 2 national titles. I know her. You know her. Lisa Bluder, welcome to the show. How's it going?
It's going great, Seerat. Thank you for having me today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for hopping on. I'm really excited to talk to you. Before we get into anything, I got to ask you, how is retirement treating you? What have you been up to?
Oh, retirement's been pretty good, to be quite honest. I didn't know what to expect, but I've been doing a little bit of traveling. But, also I'm excited about just supporting. I got to learn about the Game Changer app, and I'm excited about it. I wish that I was something that was around when I was a coach and when I was a parent, missing my kids' games. And so it's just a tremendous app, and I'm really looking forward to working with them.
Yeah, so you're an ambassador for this app. It's like AI-powered film room for youth coaches. Tell me exactly, how exactly does this work?
Well, yeah, like you said, with AI now, a lot of things can happen, right? But what I love about this, as far as there's really 2 realms. I love it as a coach and I love it as a parent. Okay. The first thing as a parent, what I loved about it is I wish that we would have been around when I was missing all my kids' games and I could have seen them play and still been working and confident in that realm. So emotionally, I just wish it would have been around when I was working as a parent, missing all my kids' games. But as a coach, what I love about it is they are tracking your games. So with like you said, AI capabilities now, they're able to track the action of the game. You don't have to recruit a parent out of the stands to sit there and say, okay, you got to watch this game and you got to film for me. So you don't have to recruit that parent. It cuts out all the dead time. So basically, half times, timeouts, it cuts all that out automatically. And it's just, you're able to send, clips to your kids. Say, hey, this ball screen was great, but you could have done this afterwards, or, just for coaching tips like that. So it really lets that kind of youth coach really have the capabilities that we had as college coaches or even professional coaches have. You have like a film staff at your disposal.
Well, it sounds like the next step, too, for, youth basketball development, especially in the women's game. We are seeing so many more resources be poured in. We are seeing so much more detail-oriented sort of ways of looking at the game. And it just seems like, it's part and parcel with all of that.
Oh, I agree 100%. These AAU programs are getting so strong now, but, the high school level may have some of these capabilities, but when you're talking about the 7th and 8th and 9th graders that really need this, even younger than that, but really need it because they don't have the capabilities, it's an excellent way for them to improve their game.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned missing your kids' games, and before we started talking, I was doing some research and I know that you mentioned that one thing that you were excited about for retirement was watching your son, David, play. And he's playing at Grinnell. And I've been thinking a lot about the number 22 with Caitlin's retirement coming up. It is such a storied number in basketball, right? Asia Wilson, of course, who's also having her jersey retired on the same day. Cheryl Swoops, now Caitlin's new coach, Stephanie White, or you guys had Sam Logic, Kathleen Doyle. And lo and behold, I look up David. He's wearing 22. Lisa, what is in the water? Like, do you have any theories on this?
Hey, truth be told, he wanted 21, but somebody else already had it. So he went to 22 and, that's the way it was. But it's a great number. And obviously we're excited about this weekend and having the opportunity for Caitlin to be recognized and retiring her jersey. We've had a lot of great 22s go through, as you just mentioned, but this one is pretty special and it will be a great day.
Yeah, super exciting. And I'm curious, were you, I know that you're away from the program now, but were you involved in that process? Like, can you give us any preview of what we can expect?
Oh, I mean, it's going to be after the game, and it's going to be carried live on television, on national television. So they're broadcasting the game, Iowa versus USC. They're going to keep rolling, as I understand, and record the whole ceremony so everybody across the United States can see it. So I don't know if I'll have a dry eye. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of tears shed, but emotional tears, happy tears of joy. I remember going into Carver many a times with Caitlin and looking up at Megan Gustafson's retired jersey and Michelle Edwards' retired jersey and saying, yours is going to be up there someday, kiddo. And it's just going to be wonderful to see that come to fruition.
Yeah. Is there anything, Caitlin did so much for the Iowa program and has obviously had a very busy year since. I imagine taking a little bit of a break, getting a chance to reflect now. But I guess as her coach and as somebody who cares about her and has known her for so long, is there anything that you're hoping that she really just takes away from the experience itself?
I hope she can just take it all in. I hope that she puts it in her memory bank. And, we talk a lot about be where your feet are. And I hope that she's really there, like fully vested in enjoying everything and not worried about something she has to do the next day or, and I think that for her, I just want her to open herself up to all the fans and all the people that are coming there just to say thank you to her.
That makes a lot of sense. And I feel like being present is something that you actually talked about a lot throughout that run in Iowa. And I imagine it had to be a very fascinating, but also challenging experience too, because, your job in that moment seems like you made your job, at least from, watching interviews and full court press and things like that, to sort of be able to give everybody perspective on the moment that they're in. But at the same time, you're experiencing this for the first time as well. And everything that happened in Iowa, especially in your last few years there, was so unprecedented. I'm curious how it was that you balanced that, if you sort of had to take a step back yourself as well.
Just trying to keep everything in perspective was so important. It's a game. We love this game. We tried to really put on, the blindfolds to everything else that was around us and just focus on the game at hand, the practice at hand, the drill at hand, whatever it was when we were there at that time. We never looked too far ahead, and we never tried to listen to the outside noise. I encouraged my players to get off social media so they didn't hear all the outside noise, and really even, just try to keep together in our circle, in our little family that we had. And I think that's so important. But I will tell you, it was easier the second time going back to the Final Four than it was the first time. What
did you take away from the first time?
Well, quite a few things. Now I kind of knew what to expect and everything wasn't quite so surprising, and I knew how to manage the day in between the games. Now, I know maybe it didn't look like it since we lost against South Carolina, but I think anybody would have lost to South Carolina.
Yeah, you ran into a
They're
buzzsaw.
An absolutely amazing basketball team led by a great coach. But I think we managed our time better, and I think we were really, really worried about recovery and did a better job with that the second time than we did the first time.
I do remember actually in one of your interviews leading into the Final Four, maybe between those games around that time, in the second time around, you did mention that you guys did a better job of handling sort of the media obligations. I imagine the first time being in the center of this storm, everybody wants a piece of you, and there's also probably an obligation to feel like, hey, we have this opportunity to grow the game as well. So it does seem like was it those types of things that you guys kind of figured out how to manage a little bit better, maybe say no to more things?
Yes, that is actually the case here. But also we had a rule change from our first time that we played. We were the second game to, when we were playing in Dallas at the Final Four. And they used to have the losers go first in the interview room. So when we were playing in the semifinal game, South Carolina went first and then we went next. We didn't get back to the hotel till almost midnight from that game. And it's not really good. I mean, the losing team has all the time in the world to stay up all night, do whatever they want. But the winning team's got to go back and get that scout done, get your kids rested and get them ready to try to get a good night's sleep with all that adrenaline going. So we actually talked to the NCAA and we were able to get that rule changed last year. And I think that was very beneficial to us this year. And that after we beat Connecticut, we were able to go first, get that kind of out of the way and get home quicker than Connecticut did.
See, I like that you were also anticipating already that, hey, we're going to be back there.
Yeah, I was anticipating, but it was also like, this is the right thing to do for our game.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it makes a lot of sense for anybody who's in that winner's seat next time going forward. It totally makes sense. But it does kind of take me to, it seems like visualization was a big part of what you guys were doing, especially that year. Like I remember seeing a clip of you guys in that circle, in the post-practice circle, sitting down after or before playing LSU, where you passed around the scissors. And you told the team to envision cutting down the net because that'd be what they're doing after they won. Is that something you've always done? Can you take me through that?
I just really believe in the power of the mind. And if you put something in your mind that you're going to do something, it becomes easier to accomplish it. Does it work 100% of the time? No, but I believe you have to have that step first. You have to believe you're going to do something before you actually achieve it. So yes, I just believe a lot in after our shoot-arounds, as we sit down in our circle, and we're either going to talk about a quote, we're going to talk about something motivational, we're going to honor somebody. At the beginning of the year, I start reading a book to them. Last year, we read Billie Jean King's book, Pressure is a Privilege. So every year, I kind of pick a book as well, just to kind of impart some kind of lesson and motivation during that time to our players, because I have their full ears at that point.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like that, you do have their full attention at that moment. Was that the book that you read to them in Caitlin's senior year or during her junior year?
Pressure is a Privilege was during her senior year.
Okay. What about the junior year? What were you reading then?
Yeah. And during the junior year, it was a book called Greatness, and I'm trying to remember the author right now, and I can't. But we've also read The Wolf Pack. I thought that was a great one. So there's a lot of really good books out there that can impart really important lessons on these young women. And it's like funny, like if I say something, it's just coach saying it. But if somebody else says it the same way, or maybe a different way, but the same message, it's all of a sudden like, oh yeah, this is great news. So it's kind of like when you're a parent, and you say something to your kid and they're like, no way, mom and dad, the neighbor says it. It's right. Kind of the same thing.
Oh, totally.
You got to find the book that you want to impart the wisdom upon, right? Like you want them to take that away.
Completely. I mean, that's part of the reason I think athletes are so influential. They can kind of go into a classroom or, talk to kids and say things that are essentially that we all kind of, understand to be true that your parents say, but that are almost cliches, right? Like so much of the athletic experience and high achievement is you're sort of repeating a lot of the same stuff, but when it comes to from the right person, it can just have a huge impact.
It's very true.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm curious, like, when you're realizing how unprecedented the moment that you're going to be in. Now, Caitlin, it feels like so much of her belief was self-sustaining and empowered the entire team. But at the same time, you have all of these other players on your team that never expected this. That was never their big goal or big dream. How did you prepare everybody else for what they were going to be dealing with?
Yeah. When I went talked to Caitlin, I did her home visit. I've known Caitlin since about 7th or 8th grade, and started recruiting her that young. But I did her home visit at the end of her junior year. And we had just been to the Elite Eight, one game away from the Final Four. Megan Gustafson was the National Player of the Year that year. I flew home from that game after we lost to Baylor and went right straight to Caitlin's home to do her home visit. I can remember sitting in her home visit and we were talking about going to a Final Four. And I said, listen, it can be done at Iowa. It's been done before. Vivian Stringer did it here in 1993. It hasn't been done for a while, but we were one step away last night. And so why not us? Why not us go out there and do it? And that's all she wanted. She wanted an opportunity to play, and she wanted an opportunity to play at the highest stage. And she believed it right off the bat. Yeah. And when she stepped onto campus, it was just getting the rest of her teammates to believe it. And she did that. She accomplished that. And it sure helped having, players like Kate Martin, that, was also drafted 18th in the WNBA draft, that believed it with her and wanted it just as badly as she did. And so that was, it was just the right group at the right time.
Yeah. So was that sort of the moment that proclamation was born of, hey, we want to make the Final Four? Because I know she said that, I think it was in her freshman year, and I don't think that anybody really took it that seriously. But then when you guys did make it, there's this great moment where, she runs over to you after you beat Louisville, and she almost sort of like melts into your shoulders, and you say, like, just says, we did it. Like that was really cool to see, like the culmination.
Yeah, it just gave me goosebumps thinking about it right now, Seerat. It's when you set a dream like that and then you accomplish it, it feels so good. And that's the way Caitlin is. She just pours her heart into everything, whether it's the basketball court or just feeling so accomplished and feeling so good and wanting to share that with you. That's her to a T right there.
Yeah. It seems like it. It feels also like maybe I would love your perspective on this. I know that for a big chunk of her early career, you guys were working with her on her body language and how powerful that can be. And, she's doing the pirouettes, she's twirling and complaining, and she's getting very frustrated. And slowly, it's still definitely, you see her get frustrated, but slowly you have seen her understand the power of doing things the other way. And I'm curious, was that sort of what unlocked her ability to make everybody else believe in themselves more when she sort of kind of understood the power in that? Does that make sense? Yeah,
no, it does. And I think there's two things there, but one is the body language. And we really did want to work on that because she's most of the time, Caitlin would be frustrated with herself, but with her body language, her teammates could interpret it that maybe she was frustrated with them and that would be hurting them. And so I wanted to make sure that she understood how powerful her body language was, to her teammates and also to the opponent and also to little kids that are watching her as a role model. Because that's really important to Caitlin, is that she is such an amazing role model and she wants to be that. So that's, I think the body language was really important, but also just how she talked to her teammates too. She wanted to, she had to bring them with her, right? Like at first, she didn't trust her teammates at the beginning because in high school and AAU, she had to do most everything herself. And so it took a little bit of time her freshman year to learn how to trust her teammates. And then we convinced her, okay, now they see you in the gym. Now you got to bring them along. And she did that. And she learned to do that through her college career.
It also almost seems like, especially in high school, a lot of that frustration kind of came from being the only one who might have been really, really angry, right? And you kind of, that can be an isolating feeling at times when you care about something so deeply. And I almost wonder, seeing her in the WNBA now, around all these athletes who care so much, who care on the same level that she does, who are just as competitive and driven. And it feels like it has sort of helped her in a lot of ways as well. So to be around these teammates and a coach now in Stephanie White too, who seems just as intense and driven.
Without doubt. And I think, again, she was very fortunate to have Kate Martin there, Gabby Marshall there, that understood and wanted to win, as much as she did. And that really helped her collegiately. Because again, in her freshman year, I don't know that she felt that 100%. But now remember, we're playing in COVID during her freshman year. There is nobody in the stands but her, but parents and cutout cardboard figures of different celebrities and things like that. And we go from that to, her sophomore year. Now, all of a sudden, there's fans in the stands and they don't know, she's not played in front of that many people yet. So it was a big adjustment from her freshman year to her sophomore year for sure.
I imagine also as somebody who now we know plays to the crowd so well, draws energy from the crowd. What was it like in her sophomore year seeing that? Did you already kind of understand that about her, or was that something that you came to understand watching her in her sophomore year?
Oh, Caitlin loves to play the game, but she also loves to have people in the stands sharing in that joy with her. So, I mean, and I think that's what makes her so popular, is not only her logo threes and not only her, on the dime passes, unbelievable assists, but also the joy she plays with and the passion she plays with. And I think people can really relate to that. I don't think people like to see a bunch of robots out there. I think people like to see somebody having fun, but also I think seeing a woman out there being so aggressive and passionate, and yes, I can be angry at times. It's okay. I think those are great lessons for our young people to learn too.
Yeah, completely. One of my favorite pieces of sports writing about women's sports is this article called Watching Women Want. And it's just such a beautiful read. It talks about how women are so often put in positions where we are an object and, we're there to look good, especially in the media. But in sports, it's completely different. Like, you are the person making things happen. You're the subject, and it doesn't matter how you look. Doesn't matter if you're wearing makeup, and hey, if you are wearing makeup, great. If you do want to look good, great. But that's not. It's ancillary to the fact that you have a goal, and that's more important than anything else. And I do think that it's a huge part of what I think makes women's sports so enchanting.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%, Seerat.
I want to talk a little bit about Kate.
Yeah.
So, of course, as a coach, that Caitlin is going to go number one, but at the same time, you have this player in Kate Martin, who was so important to your guys' team as a leader, as somebody who is incredibly tough, who can, fill a lot of gaps as well, somebody who will rebound for you, play the four when necessary, essentially, and is obviously an incredible shooter, incredible defender, is really one of these glue players that can do a lot of different things. And it seems like, and then it gets to this point where everybody else is starting to realize that too. And I'm curious, when did you start to realize, WNBA teams actually have an interest in Caitlin, or in Kate rather? When did you guys start getting those calls?
Yeah, I think in her junior year, so it'd be Caitlin's junior year as well. I think everybody was watching Caitlin, and so Kate got overshadowed so much. And then it was her senior year, I really believe, that people were starting to think, hey, wait a second, this kid is good too. It's not just Caitlin. And so I think it was her senior year when people really started to reach out and talk to her or talk to us about her and find out more about her. It was a great night when she was drafted, and to go, 18th, that's pretty high. And, to go to the defending world champion team was pretty exciting too. So I'm so happy for her because she's so tough. People don't realize how tough that kid is. She's overcome ACL surgery. In her freshman year, she missed that whole first year because of an ACL tear. Comes back from that. It has a tough second year because it is hard when you're coming back from an injury like that, plus learning the game. And then really from there, breaks her nose, I think, 3 times in her career. But everybody needs to have a Kate Martin in your locker room. It just helps so much because she's going to hold people accountable. She's going to build people up, be there to listen to them, but never sugarcoat anything. She's just a really great leader and will be an unbelievable coach someday.
You think she's going to be a coach one day?
Oh, without doubt. She has to be. I mean, her dad's a football coach. Yeah. And I just feel like that is her calling because she's just loves athletics, loves the game, and is such a good leader. There's no doubt in my mind she will be an outstanding coach.
Is that something you guys have talked about?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's amazing. Is it a goal of hers or something that you kind of see in her?
Oh, both. Yeah, it's a goal of hers, something I see in her all the way, something I think she knows she would be really, really good at it.
She also has this brand new opportunity with the Golden State Valkyries now, too, where she's going to be taking on a bigger role, I think, on the court, also in the locker room as one of the bigger faces of the franchise as well. What do you think she's going to bring there?
I think the coach realized how beneficial she was to the Aces. And so when she was, selected as the head coach, I think she thought of Kate as one of the people she'd like to take from the Aces. Because I think she sees the value of Kate Martin. Is she going to, always score a double-double? No. But she's going to do everything that a coach needs people to do off camera, off court. And that's what Kate will do so well. And I think she sees the value of that.
We're also seeing her in Unrivaled take on more of a role where she's, getting to be more of an on-ball creator as well. She's taking a couple step-back threes. The mid-range game looks good. She also has to play small sometimes, which, as you know, she does well. She has no problem being a physical player. But, when it comes to some of the offensive stuff, I'm curious if that was something that was going on in practice at all, because obviously she was playing a role for your guys' team that she had to play. But do you kind of see her being able to expand her offensive repertoire and be more of an on-ball creator?
I think Kate's always been really versatile. And I think that's one of the things that made her so valuable to us is that, she could penetrate, and she was strong enough to post up down there and finish off the dribble, rebound with the best of them, but she could also knock down threes. And so I think she's worked really hard this summer on her mid-range game, which is something we didn't stress as much at Iowa. We were really open threes and rim shots.
Right.
But now, in the WNBA, she really needs to take some more of those mid-range opportunities. And I think she's worked hard on it. And there's no doubt that she's so strong, she can elevate and get off the ground too.
Yeah, and it looks like I'm watching some of these off-season workout videos. It looks like she's getting even stronger as well. So I'm super excited for Kate Martin year two. Yeah, we know when you think about that Iowa team, we obviously know what Caitlin brought. We know what Kate brought. Is there anybody else on the team? I'm sure, there are a number of players that you could point to, but anybody who you think really made a difference for you guys that doesn't necessarily get the credit that they deserve?
Oh, I think there's a lot of them. I think Gabby Marshall was kind of our defensive perimeter player. In both the last 2 years, she struggled early from three, and she was a really good three-point shooter, but she struggled early and then came on late, right when we needed her. And in March, at the end of February and March. I think Hannah Stuelke, was an undersized post player for us last year and really didn't want to play the post, wanted to be a power forward, but out of necessity knew that the team needed her to play post. And, I keep comparing her to a Naz Hillman. She's like undersized post player, but, can jump, is stronger than you think down there. So I think she had a fabulous sophomore year. And then we lost one of our players. Molly Davis was a starting off guard for us, and we lost her to a really bad knee injury in our last home game of the year when we beat Ohio State in our senior game. And then she was never able to play the rest of the year again. So Sydney Folter stepped into that position after really never starting much at all, her first 3 years and really doing well down the stretch.
Yeah, Sid was big time. She was huge. She was huge for you guys. Yeah. Yeah. I love that Naz Hillman comparison. I'd never thought about that one. But yeah, even being undersized didn't really matter because she just outran everybody, right? And it fits so well into what you guys were trying to do.
Yes.
Yeah, when I think about Gabby, there's always one moment that I'll remember. I think I'm curious at your perspective as a coach because it felt like so much of what you guys were trying to build to in terms of like instilling trust and belief. But against LSU in the Elite Eight, where Gabby has the ball in transition, Caitlin's to her right, and Caitlin's open and she's asking for it. Gabby like waves her off and you're kind of like, whoa, okay. And then she just slows up, waits for Hannah to catch up and hits her in stride for a pocket pass that was almost Caitlin-esque. And I should call it Gabby-esque actually, but I'm curious if that play always stood out to me and I was curious if it stood out to you.
I love it. I love that you remember that. It doesn't actually stand out to me because there were so many great plays that Gabby had during the course of her career. But I think that just speaks to the IQ that this whole team really acquired. Caitlin has always had an off-the-charts basketball IQ, but I think the rest of the team started learning from that and benefiting from that and like making those kind of reads and those kind of passes that maybe they wouldn't have done a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it felt like by the end they had completely taken on her image, and that just became so incredibly fun to watch. Let's talk about Iowa right now for a bit here. So you guys are going to have 6 recruits that's from what I read at the game against USC where Caitlin gets her number retired. You bring in Lucy Olson from a transport portal. Like, I guess I'm curious, how do you think your program or your former program, I imagine you still consider it your program somewhat in your heart, has changed?
Well, I just think that a lot of people haven't given them an opportunity. They started out the season really well, beat Kansas, beat Iowa State, was in anybody could have won game against Tennessee. But then they kind of hit a slump here lately when we got into the Big Ten play. And I think people have forgotten we graduated 4 starters and the world's best player, basically, coming out of college. And so this is a lot of youth on this team. This is a lot of inexperience. And I just want people to give them an opportunity I think they're going to get better and better as the season goes on. I think we had a really great recruiting class. They're ranked 11th best in the country. Next year, we have Addie Deal coming in, who's the 18th best player in the country from your neck of the woods in LA, Mater Dei High School. And we have a super post coming in from Alaska. So I feel like if people just need to give this team time to develop its own identity and time to grow, they're going to be okay.
Yeah, you also have a first-year head coach in Jan Jensen, your former assistant right-hand woman, and it feels like, she's talked a little bit about how, it seems like you want to give her space, but there are times when she's like, no, actually, it's cool. Like, I'd like to be able to hear from you. I'm curious if you guys are in touch on I'm sure you guys are in touch, but on a coaching level, and what's it been like to just watch her navigate this for the first time?
Yeah, I think she's doing a great job. And after every game, I kind of send her maybe a few things here or there that, I think that would be little tweaks that maybe she could accomplish. And I said, listen, don't listen to it. If you don't want to listen to this, just press delete or just say thank you and don't even read it, because I know, Jan's been on the game a long time. She's got a good staff. They have to learn how to work together. I mean, Jenny Fitzgerald was my other assistant that retired this year. We worked together for 30 some years together. That experience, that relationship building, that trust, that doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. And so, again, they have to just go through some of those hard times because that's what makes you great in the end.
Yeah, and she's also, I think, got to get some time to find her coaching voice as well as the head coach, as the culture setter, because as much as you guys obviously share similarities, she's her own person, right? And, you can kind of see it developing a little bit in the press conferences sometimes where she's obviously very fiery, and she's very passionate, and her care level is very high. And I think that, in time that'll sort of translate to her figuring out how to sort of set the culture as well. Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah. And you think about for 37 years, she's been an assistant coach, right? And it's just moving over one chair, but it's a pretty good leap over that one chair. And so it does take time, like you said, to find your own voice, your own values. She doesn't want to mimic, me. Right. She wants to be her own person, and she should be. She's paid her dues, and she's waited this long to have that chair. So I couldn't be happier for her.
Yeah. Yeah. Last thing I want to ask you before we let you get out of here, let you enjoy the rest of your vacation in Florida. The game that Caitlin's getting her jersey retired is against Juju Watkins and USC. Now, obviously, Juju is having an incredible season, and there are a lot of people that were sort of hoping that she'd fill Caitlin's shoes. I know it's obviously a ton of pressure to put on a player, but I do know that Juju's had an opportunity to talk to, or has a gateway to talk to Caitlin through Lindsay Gottlieb. I'm curious if Lindsay Gottlieb has ever reached out to you about sort of how to handle everything that's coming Juju's way.
Yeah, we actually talked at the beginning of the year, just once by phone, just some of the things security-wise that we had to do that were, maybe different than what they've had to do in the past. And I've known Lindsay for a while, since she was the coach at California, and I got to meet Juju at the Wooden Awards last year when she was being honored there as well. So I think they're handling it just fine.
Yeah, they're out here in LA. Get to see them all the time, and a new addition into the Big Ten. I feel like that should probably be priced into Iowa's struggles as well. You got a couple powerhouses in the Big Ten now. You got UCLA as well.
Yeah, it's just such a tough conference. And you think about, Maryland was ranked in the top 10 until, they lost a couple of starters now. And so that was tough, but we played them at full strength. You have Ohio State, who's really, really good. Michigan. This is a really good basketball conference, and it just keeps getting stronger the more we expand it. But I think that's what everybody wants, is to be able to compete against the very best.
Yeah. Last question, actually. Do you ever miss it? Are you missing it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you miss, I miss the exhilaration of a win. There's nothing that can ever replace that. That is something that you share with your team, that you've worked so hard to achieve something that that you can't replace that. Like a business person, they get a big deal, they close a deal or something. It's like, yeah, that's great. But nothing can compare to the exhilaration of a big win with your team, with the people that you love and really care to be around. And then I miss practices. The teaching element is so much fun to me. I don't miss the recruiting. I don't miss the stress of that. But it's certainly, the teaching. I really love to teach the game of basketball. And I love to mentor to young women. So to me, that's really important that, I was trying to use the sport of basketball to empower the next generation of female leaders. And that's what I really wanted to do. And I found a platform through coaching basketball that I was able to do that. And I am blessed beyond measure that I got to do that for so many years of my life.
That's really beautiful. Thanks, Lisa. Appreciate you taking some time to join us.
Oh, my pleasure, Seerat. And again, if you haven't checked this Game Changer app, you need to do so. You need to do so because it really is special and it's such a time saver for everybody. So thanks for having me, Seerat. I appreciate it.